I never thought my ex-boyfriend's new girlfriend would create a TikTok exposing my stalking behavior with screenshots of my fake social media accounts and GPS tracking evidence that would get 2.3 million views in 48 hours and thousands of comments calling me a psycho. But there, I was watching my entire life get destroyed online, while Jessica methodically laid out months of evidence, showing how I'd been following them to restaurants and documenting their every move. I sat there refreshing the video obsessively as the view count climbed from thousands to hundreds of thousands to over 1 million. The comments were brutal. "This girl is absolutely unhinged. Someone needs to call the police." Main character syndrome gone wrong. People were sharing it to their stories, with captions like, "This is why you block your ex," and "Psycho ex-girlfriend exposed." My phone started buzzing with texts from friends and family who'd seen the video. My boss called me into her office the next day and fired me on the spot, saying my behavior reflected poorly on the company. My mom called me crying, asking how I could have done something so embarrassing. Derek even reached out to say he'd seen the video and felt sorry for his part in everything. Before I tell you how it all got to this point, please do me a small favor. Hit that like button if this story resonates with you. Subscribe to the channel for more real-life drama. And let me know in the comments what city you're watching from. It's incredible to see how many different places this audience reaches, and your support means everything to me. Now let me tell you the whole story, from the beginning. Because 8 months ago, I thought I was just being a mature, evolved woman. My name is Claire, and I'm 28 years old, and I work as a social media manager in Denver. I pride myself on understanding human psychology, which is probably why I was so good at showing people what real emotional intelligence looks like. At least, that's what I thought, before Jessica ruined everything with her TikTok that made me look like some kind of unhinged stalker when I was literally just trying to be a good person. It all started 6 months ago, when I got Derek's wedding invitation in the mail. Derek and I dated for almost 2 years, before we broke up 18 months ago, and it was completely amicable. We realized we wanted different things, and decided to part ways like mature adults. No drama, no hard feelings. Just 2 people who cared about each other enough to let go gracefully. That's why I was genuinely happy when I saw his invitation to marry someone named Sophia. The invitation was beautiful, with gold foil lettering, and inside was a handwritten note saying he hoped I could be there to celebrate with him, because I'd been such an important part of his life. I was actually excited to go, because it would show everyone, including myself, that I'd moved on completely and could celebrate Derek's happiness without any jealousy or bitterness. This is what emotional maturity looks like, I thought. This is how evolved people handle their past relationships. When I showed the invitation to my boyfriend Mark, he immediately got this weird look on his face. Mark is 30 and works in construction, and honestly, he's always been more emotional than I prefer. He asked why Derek would invite me to his wedding, and I explained that Derek and I had remained friendly. Mark said he didn't understand why I would want to watch my ex-boyfriend get married to someone else. Because it shows we've both moved on in a healthy way. I told him, it's actually really mature that he wants me there. I'm curious to meet Sophia and see Derek happy with someone who's better suited for him than I was. Mark said the whole thing seemed weird and inappropriate and that he didn't want me to go. That's when I realized Mark was being completely unreasonable and letting his insecurities cloud his judgment about what was obviously a beautiful gesture of friendship and growth. I decided to document the whole experience on social media because I thought it would be powerful to show people what healthy relationship transitions look like. Most women would be petty and jealous about their ex getting married, but I wanted to demonstrate a different way. I posted on Instagram about receiving the invitation with the caption, "When your ex invites you to his wedding, and you realize this is what growth looks like," with a photo of the invitation. The post got so many likes and comments from friends, saying how mature and evolved I was being. My friend Ashley commented, "I could never be this zen about my ex getting married. You're literally goals." And my co-worker, Jennifer, wrote, "This is what emotional intelligence looks like. It felt amazing to have my growth acknowledged." Mark saw the post and got upset, saying I was making our private business public and that it was disrespectful to him and our relationship. I tried to explain that I was actually strengthening our relationship by showing the world how secure and confident I was, but he couldn't see past his own jealousy. "Stop posting about him, and don't go to the wedding," Mark said during dinner that night. "I'm asking you to choose me over your ex. You're trying to control my emotional growth." I told him, "This isn't about Derek. It's about me being a mature adult who can handle seeing people from my past move on with their lives." We had a huge fight where Mark kept saying I was prioritizing Derek's feelings over his feelings and that I was being selfish. I couldn't understand why he was being so possessive when I was literally doing nothing wrong. Derek texted me, asking if we could meet for coffee to clear the air before the wedding. He said he wanted to make sure there were no misunderstandings and that Sophia was comfortable with me being there. I thought this was incredibly thoughtful, so I agreed. I posted about our coffee date on my Instagram story with the caption, "Pre-wedding coffee with the ex to make sure everyone's comfortable," along with a photo of our lattes. The story got hundreds of views and so many heart emojis. During coffee, Derek shared some memories from our relationship and talked about how much I'd meant to him. He even gave me a small necklace as a thank you for being so understanding. It was really sweet and confirmed that we'd both handled our breakup with such maturity. I needed to find the perfect gift for Derek and Sophia, something that would show how genuinely happy I was for them. I spent hours researching and finally found a beautiful crystal vase that cost $800. Mark said it was too expensive, but I explained that this was an investment in showing people what real love looks like. I used our shared credit card because this was important for both of us. I documented the gift shopping on Instagram with posts about finding the perfect gift to celebrate love. The engagement was incredible, with so many people commenting about how thoughtful I was being. I also created a Pinterest board called Derek's Perfect Day, where I pinned inspiration for wedding speeches, photo ideas, and outfit choices. I wanted everything to be perfect because I knew people would be watching. Mark found my Pinterest board and completely lost it. He said I was obsessed and that I was planning Derek's wedding like I was the bride instead of just a guest. I tried to explain that I was just being thorough and considerate, but Mark couldn't appreciate the level of emotional intelligence I was demonstrating. "This is insane, Claire," Mark said, showing me his phone with my Pinterest board open. "You have 47 pins about your ex-boyfriend's wedding. You've planned his bachelor party, his honeymoon, and what songs they should play at the reception. I'm showing the world how healthy breakups work," I told him. "People need to see that exes can genuinely care about each other's happiness." Derek's family even called to thank me for being so mature and supportive. His mum said it meant the world to them that I was being so gracious about everything and that it showed what a special person I was. She said Sophia was a little nervous about having me there, but that Derek had assured her I was completely supportive of their relationship. The morning of the wedding, Mark gave me an ultimatum. He said, if I went to the wedding despite everything we discussed, he would consider it the end of our relationship. He said he couldn't be with someone who would prioritize performing their maturity over protecting their current relationship. "If you can't trust me to attend a simple wedding, then maybe we're not right for each other," I told him. Those words haunt me now because they were so dismissive of his legitimate concerns, but at the time, I was convinced he was the problem. I wore a stunning navy dress that cost $400 and looked absolutely perfect in photos. I documented my getting ready process on Instagram stories, showing my outfit, makeup, and jewelry. The necklace Derek had given me looked beautiful with the dress. I captioned it, "Getting ready to celebrate love and show the world what emotional maturity looks like." The wedding was at a beautiful vineyard, and I documented my arrival with scenic photos. The ceremony was lovely, and Derek looked genuinely happy with Sophia, who seemed sweet but clearly didn't understand Derek the way I did. During the cocktail hour, I mingled with Derek's family and friends. Everyone seemed pleased to see me, and several people commented on how mature I was being. I made sure to get photos with everyone, and posted them with captions about celebrating love. When Derek's aunt asked me to give a speech during dinner, I was honored. I spoke from the heart about true love transcending time, and how beautiful it was to see two people find their way to each other. I talked about how Derek deserved all the happiness in the world. The speech got a standing ovation, and several people came up to me afterward to say how moved they were. I posted a video of part of the speech on Instagram with the caption, when you get to celebrate your ex's wedding with words of love and support. Looked genuinely happy with Sophia, who seemed sweet but clearly didn't understand Derek the way I did. During the cocktail hour, I mingled with Derek's family and friends. Everyone seemed pleased to see me, and several people commented on how mature I was being. I made sure to get photos with everyone, and posted them with captions about celebrating love. When Derek's aunt asked me to give a speech during dinner, I was honored. I spoke from the heart about true love transcending time, and how beautiful it was to see two people find their way to each other. I talked about how Derek deserved all the happiness in the world. The speech got a standing ovation, and several people came up to me afterward to say how moved they were. I posted a video of part of the speech on Instagram with the caption, "When you get to celebrate your ex's wedding with words of love and support." During the reception, Derek asked me to dance during a slow song. While we were dancing, he started talking about our old relationship and how seeing me at his wedding had brought back so many memories. He said I looked beautiful and that he'd missed having me in his life. "Seeing you here tonight has made me realize how much you still mean to me," Derek said as we swayed to the music. "Maybe we ended things too soon." I was completely shocked. This wasn't what I'd expected at all. I'd come to celebrate his marriage, not to have him question his decisions on his wedding day. When the song ended, Derek asked if we could talk privately in the garden. Even though I knew it was probably a bad idea, I agreed because I wanted to clear the air and make sure there were no misunderstandings. We walked out to the garden behind the venue, and Derek immediately started telling me how conflicted he was feeling. He said seeing me at his wedding had made him question whether he was making the right decision and that maybe we'd given up on our relationship too easily. "I keep thinking about what we had," Derek said, moving closer to me. "Sophia is great, but she's not you. She doesn't understand me the way you do." Derek tried to kiss me, and I pushed him away and told him he needed to go back inside to his wife and forget about whatever he thought he was feeling. I left the wedding immediately after that conversation, feeling sick and guilty and completely blindsided by what had happened. I posted one final Instagram story from my car in the parking lot. Sometimes, the most mature thing you can do is walk away. Love is complicated, but doing the right thing is always simple. When I got home, Mark was waiting for me and could tell immediately that something had happened. I made the mistake of telling him the truth about Derek's behavior and what he'd said to me. Mark's face went completely white and then red with anger. "I knew something like this would happen," Mark said. "You walked straight into exactly what I warned you about. You were so concerned with looking mature that you ignored every red flag." We had a huge fight where Mark said he couldn't be with someone who was so naive about other people's motives and who would prioritize being seen as evolved over protecting their current relationship. That was 6 months ago, and Mark and I never recovered from the wedding incident. He broke up with me 2 weeks later, saying he couldn't get past the fact that I'd put myself and our relationship in that situation despite his warnings. Meanwhile, I heard through mutual friends that Derek's marriage to Sophia fell apart after only 3 months. Apparently Derek had confessed to her about his feelings for me after the wedding, and she'd filed for divorce immediately. Several people told me that Sophia had said Derek spent their entire honeymoon talking about me and comparing her to me. Derek tried to contact me after his divorce to tell me he was sorry for putting me in an awkward position at his wedding. He asked if we could try again now that we were both single, but I told him absolutely not. I'd learned my lesson about getting involved with people who couldn't make up their minds about what they wanted. 6 months later, I ran into Mark at a coffee shop with his new girlfriend Jessica. Seeing them happy together brought up all the feelings I'd claimed not to have: jealousy, hurt, possessiveness. That's when I started showing up everywhere they went. The gym, coffee shops, their favorite restaurants. I used Find My Friends to track Mark's location and created fake dating profiles to monitor them online. I told myself I was processing grief and posted about it on social media like it was some healing journey. Jessica noticed and started documenting everything. Screenshots of my fake accounts, photos of me at their date spots, location data. I didn't realize she was building a case against me. One day, Jessica cornered me at the grocery store. She was direct but not unkind when she said, "I know who you are, and I know what you've been doing. Mark told me about the wedding situation. And honestly, I felt bad for you. But this has to stop." I started to protest, to explain that I wasn't trying to cause problems, and that I was just trying to work through my feelings. But Jessica held up her hand. Look, I get it. Mark is a great guy, and losing him probably sucks. But you had your chance, and you chose to prioritize your ego over your relationship. Don't make the same mistake again by trying to sabotage his happiness now. She pulled out her phone and showed me screenshots of my fake social media accounts, photos of me at their date locations, and a detailed log of all the times I'd randomly appeared where they were. I'm a therapist, Claire. I recognize obsessive behavior when I see it. You've been stalking us for months and documenting it all on social media, like it's some kind of healing journey. Standing there in the cereal aisle, being confronted with evidence of my behavior, I finally understood what Mark had been trying to tell me all those months ago. Some things aren't about being mature or evolved. Sometimes being mature means recognizing that your presence in a situation will cause more harm than good. But instead of apologizing and walking away, I got defensive. I told Jessica she was overreacting and that I had every right to go to public places and work through my emotions however I needed to. I said she was being paranoid and possessive. That's when Jessica made the TikTok that ruined my life. The video was titled, "When Your Boyfriend's Ex Becomes a Stalker," and documents it all on social media. She laid out everything, methodically. The fake accounts, the location tracking, the workplace infiltration attempts, the restaurant surveillance. She showed screenshots of my social media posts, where I documented running into them, along with timestamps proving I'd been following their patterns. The video went viral immediately. 2.3 million views in 48 hours. Thousands of comments, calling me psycho, delusional, unhinged. People shared it to their stories with captions like, "This is why you block your ex," and "Main character syndrome gone wrong." My boss saw the video within days and called me into her office. She said that as a social media manager, I should have understood the consequences of my online behavior and that my actions reflected poorly on the company. I was fired immediately. My friends and family saw the video too. My mum called me crying, asking how I could have done something so embarrassing and destructive. My friends stopped answering my texts and calls. Derek even reached out to say he'd seen the video and that he was sorry for his part in everything. I tried to defend myself in the comments of Jessica's TikTok, explaining that I'd been working through grief and that she was twisting my healing process into something sinister. But every comment I made just got more likes for Jessica's video and more hate directed at me. People started recognizing me in public. Someone recorded me at Target and posted it with the caption, "Spotted the TikTok stalker in the wild." I had to start wearing sunglasses and hats everywhere I went. The worst part was that I still didn't think I'd done anything that terrible. Yes, maybe I'd been a little too focused on Mark and Jessica, but I wasn't dangerous or threatening. I was just trying to understand what had gone wrong in my life and how to fix it. But then Jessica filed a restraining order against me with all her digital evidence. During the court hearing, I had to sit there and listen to a judge read through months of my documented stalking behavior, while Jessica's lawyer presented it as evidence of harassment and obsession. Derek even testified, admitting that he'd manipulated my need to appear mature when he invited me to his wedding. He said he'd been having second thoughts about getting married and thought seeing me would either confirm his decision or give him an excuse to back out. I knew Claire would come because she'd see it as some kind of test of how evolved she was. Derek told the court, "I used that against her and I'm sorry, but what she's been doing to Mark and Jessica goes way beyond anything I did." The judge granted the restraining order and mandated that I attend therapy. She said my behavior showed a pattern of boundary violations and obsessive thinking that needed professional intervention. Dr. Martinez, my court-appointed therapist, made me watch Jessica's TikTok during our first session. Seeing my behavior laid out like that, with millions of strangers commenting on how disturbed I seemed, finally broke through my delusions. "You spent so much energy trying to prove you weren't jealous or possessive, Doctor," Martinez said, "that you never actually dealt with the fact that you are those things sometimes. And that's okay, Claire. Everyone is." The hardest part of therapy was learning to sit with uncomfortable feelings instead of trying to transcend them. When I felt regret about Derek's wedding, instead of trying to rationalize my decision, I had to sit with the fact that I'd made a mistake. A year after the TikTok disaster, Derek reached out again. This time, he wasn't asking for a second chance. He was in therapy too, and wanted to make amends. "I know I put you in an impossible position," he said when we met for coffee. "Inviting you to my wedding wasn't about maintaining our friendship. I was having second thoughts, and I thought seeing you would help me figure out what I really wanted." It was validating to hear him admit what Mark had suspected all along, but it was also devastating to realize how completely I'd been manipulated. "The worst part," Derek continued, "is that I knew you'd come. I knew you'd see it as some kind of test of how evolved you were, and I used that against you. I cost you your relationship with Mark. That conversation was a turning point, not because it gave me closure, but because it helped me understand that some mistakes can't be undone. My relationship with Mark was over. Sophia's marriage was over. My reputation was destroyed, but acknowledging the permanent consequences was somehow freeing. It's been 2 years since Derek's wedding now, and I'm finally dating again. When I started seeing David, a fellow graphic designer, I told him about the situation early on. Not because I thought it made me sound mature, but because it was part of my recent history, and I didn't want to hide it. "What would you do differently now?" David asked after hearing the whole story. "I wouldn't go," I said immediately. "Not because attending your ex's wedding is inherently wrong, but because my boyfriend asked me not to go, and I should have respected that. His feelings should have mattered more to me than proving how mature I was." 6 months into dating David, I got another wedding invitation, this time from my college friend Sarah, and her fiancé was Tom, someone I'd dated briefly sophomore year. Nothing serious, maybe 5 dates, but technically, he was an ex. My first instinct was to RSVP yes immediately and prove to myself that I'd learned my lesson. But then I stopped and really thought about it. Why did I want to go? Was it because I genuinely cared about Sarah? Or was it because I wanted to prove something about how evolved I'd become? I talked it over with David, who listened carefully and then asked, "What does your gut tell you?" "That I should go because Sarah is important to me and Tom is barely even an ex," I said, "but also that I should be suspicious of how confident I feel about that answer." "And if I asked you not to go?" David said. "I'd stay home," I said, without hesitation, "because your feelings matter more to me than attending any wedding." We went to Sarah's wedding together, and it was lovely. Tom and I said hello, caught up briefly, and that was it. No private conversations, no dancing together, no drama. Just 2 people who dated briefly years ago, being friendly at a mutual friend's wedding. Here's what I've learned. Being mature in relationships isn't about proving you're above normal human emotions. It's about acknowledging those emotions and making decisions that prioritize the people who matter most to you right now. Mark wasn't being controlling when he asked me not to go to Derek's wedding. He was being vulnerable, telling me that the situation made him uncomfortable, and asking me to choose our relationship over my need to appear evolved. I should have seen that as a gift, rather than a character flaw. Sometimes, the mature thing to do is exactly what everyone else would do in your situation. Sometimes, being ordinary is more loving than being exceptional. I lost a good relationship because I was more committed to my image than to my partner. Your ego will recover from not attending a wedding. Your relationship might not recover from attending one against your partner's wishes. Trust me, I learned this the hard way, so you don't have to.